Do you know an Army mom who deserves an extra special gift this Mother's Day? Order a commemorative brick to be placed in her honor on the grounds of the National Museum of the United States Army in Alexandria, Virginia. You can personalize the brick with the perfect message and even order a replica to have as a keepsake. Order now and her brick will be installed by Veterans Day. Remember Mom's service in a way that will last forever. Design your brick and place your order at armyhistory.org. That's armyhistory.org.
Hello and welcome to All Indians Matter. I am Ashraf Engineer. It is estimated that 81 lakh investor accounts were added in 2020-21 in India, with city-wise assets under management of mutual funds witnessing a sharp rise. This is only one indicator of people's willingness to invest, and this willingness is driving the user base of investment platforms. One of the key investment trends in India is microinvesting, which, as the name suggests, is simply investing very small amounts, sometimes as low as rupees 10, so that users keep investments going without altering their lifestyles too much. This is why microinvesting is catching on fast among young people. How does microinvesting work? What is its future in India, and how can you make the most of it?
All Indians Matter.
We have on the show Satyajeet Kunjeer, founder of Deciml, a micro-investing and micro-savings platform that enables young Indians to auto-invest their spare change from online transactions into various financial instruments. Satyajeet founded Deciml to make investing effortless and initiate more young Indians into the investment ecosystem. Deciml is Satyajeet's second entrepreneurial venture, but his first within the fintech space. Welcome, Satyajeet.
Hi, Ashraf. Thank you for having me here.
Satyajeet, what exactly is micro-investing and how does it work?
I think micro investing, like you just mentioned, is so. Let me explain this with generally what the youth goes through. Say, let's imagine a person who earns the starting salary might be about 25 to 30,000 rupees, and for him or her to save 3,000 rupees in an SIP, right, which is a fixed obligation per month, might feel very overwhelming. If a person receives his or her salary on the 5th and 6th, they've done an SIP for 3,000 rupees, 30,000 rupees that comes in, now it's only 27,000 rupees remaining. But if you just break this down into smaller amounts, and if you ask the person if they're okay with doing 100 rupees per day, that's something which does not seem very overwhelming, especially for youngsters who are getting introduced to the concept of investing, to the universe of investing. I think it's very important to make it not so overwhelming, right? To ease them in, whether the comfort is with 50 rupees every day, 10 rupees every day, 100 rupees every day. It's over a period of time, they can actually start looking at creating sizable amount of portfolio. But how do you just ease them into starting on their investing journey is what micro investing basically enables.
But what we are talking about is very small amounts. So, how do they translate into substantial returns over a period of time?
So I'll tell you what we do at Deciml, right? So say you buy a cup of coffee, costs about 45 rupees, and you pay via any digital medium. The amount getting deducted from your account is rounded up to the nearest 10, and 50 rupees gets deducted. The additional 5 rupees getting invested in your behalf. While this might seem like a very inconsequential amount, right, over a period of time, if you look at, because of digitalization of spends, the number of transactions that people do today. So on our platform, what we observe is 4.8 transactions, so roughly about 5 transactions that a person between the age group of 20 to 26 does on a daily basis. Now, if you look at 6 transactions and 6 times, 10, 15, 20 rupees keeps getting invested, we're looking at averages of about 1,859 rupees per user per month. That's what it accumulates to. So let's take for calculation, let's take about 2,000 rupees, 24,000 rupees in a year. That's a substantial amount of investment that someone at the age of 21 might have, which otherwise, without the existence of platforms like this, might have had zero.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that what you mean by the term roundup investing?
Yes, that's exactly what we mean. So every transaction that you do gets rounded up to the nearest multiple of 10, and the spare change or the rounded up amount keeps getting invested on your behalf.
So, why is micro investing so attractive, especially for young people?
I think if you look at the historic trends, we as Indians have started investing in our late 20s or our early 30s. The primary reason for this is look at the entire communication around investing that has been happening. Investing is always for the bigger things in life, right? If you talk to any wealth manager, or if you've looked at any kind of advertisements, your parents, whatever your parents have told you, your well wishers have told you, they've said invest so your retirement is better, invest to buy your dream home. What this creates is creates two false notions in the minds of a 21-year-old, right? I say a 21-year-old because you've just graduated and you've started earning your own money, right? It tells you that this is for the bigger things in life, so I need a lot of money to buy that home, so I need a lot of money to start investing. Second, my retirement is at the age of 60, right? So today it's 40 years ahead. I've not even lived I've only lived 20 years of my life, so there is a lot of time to get started. These are the two notions that get created in our minds, right? If you look at anyone who understands investments, or anyone who understands the basics of compounding, compounding is a factor of for how long do you stay invested, not how much do you invest, right? I'll give you a small example also here. 20,000 rupees, say, invested from the age of 35 till you retire at 60, you know, and growing at about 12% would roughly amount to about 3.6 odd crore rupees, right? If you just start this journey 10 years earlier at 25, but you don't have a lot of money, so you start investing only half the amount. Now, if you invest from 25, if you invest 10,000 rupees till the age of 60, and you do this till the age of 60, you don't increase it. You keep investing only 10,000 rupees, right? The amount that you will accumulate by 60 at the same rate of return is over 10 crores, right? It's more than 3x. Even by investing half the amount for a period of 25 years from 35 to 60, but just by starting 10 years earlier, right, you've accumulated, or you've managed to save 3x the amount. Compounding is a factor of for how long can you stay invested, right? Warren Buffett, started investing at the age of 13, became a billionaire post 50, right? It was the money needed to compound for those many years. So what we want to do is, if Indians today start investing at 30, because of these notions of I need a lot of money to start investing, or it's for things I will need later, if we can just bring this back 10 years, but of course we understand that we're not earning a lot of money at the age of 21, so can we start investing 1,000 rupees? I think that's an amount that everyone can put aside, even if you're doing an internship. We want to inculcate the habit of investing, so that tomorrow when they come to 25, 26, and they've had 1 2 increments of salary, and they're earning a substantial amount of money, I think they do not have to start the habit of investing at that point. They're already in the habit, and they can take better financial decisions at that point.
Yeah, so Satyajit, I think that's a phenomenal insight. And if there are any young people listening, I would urge them to take heed. You're absolutely right. And I don't think it's for the term, compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. I don't think that's been said lightly.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about cliches, right? They're also called cliches for a reason, because they've just
Yeah,
been repeated over the years, and there's a lot of truth in it.
there's a lot of truth in them. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Satyajit, coming back to micro investing, is it simpler than, say, directly investing in mutual funds or other instruments? And I'm asking this because investing can be complicated. And that's one of the reasons why mutual fund penetration stands at just 3.5 to 4% of the Indian population.
Yeah, so our investment penetration stands at 3.54%, but just 1.7% of Indians have one single mutual fund, right? So the thing is that what we've done, we've we've built great apps today. We've built great digital products, which has made getting started in your investment journey very smooth, right? Your KYC has been digitalized. I can see the entire universe of mutual funds, all of the scripts from all of the AMCs probably in one dashboard. I can see all of my investments together in a very good dashboard. But for a country that suffers from financial literacy, right? We're not a very financially literate society. So for a country that suffers from that, how does one go on any of these platforms and choose which fund is correct for me, right? And that at that point you need to fall back on your wealth managers. So someone who we've created great products like Zerotha Grow, but we're still not solving for a more basic problem of financial literacy. How do I pick which stocks? If I know that I want to say invest in Asian Paints, right? Probably I can invest into clicks. But what about the journey of I want to invest in Asian Paints, right? Who's traveling that journey with us? So what we've tried to do is we've tried to again simplify this through Deciml. Is we've kept this into three categories, saying low risk, mid risk, high risk, and behind each category we've kept one fund. Right now, risk is a common term that everyone understands, and someone can say, you know what, I want to just test the waters. I want a low risk fund, right? Or these amounts are very small. Let me try a high risk fund and let me just see what it is, right? What you're doing when you start putting in 2 rupees, 3 rupees, 5 rupees into a fund, right? You're just dipping the waters. It's something that lets you, micro investing allows you that time to get comfortable with something, and that's how we're, basically just taking away the entire overwhelmingness about around surrounding investments.
Typically speaking, when it comes to micro investing apps and platforms, how is the investment deployed? Is it debt, mutual funds, equities? What financial instruments?
So we have mutual funds. We have an index fund that is in our mid-risk this thing, and we have an equity fund, large and mid-cap equity fund that's in the high risk category. And we have another instrument which is a P2P fund, which gives you up to 10% fixed returns per annum. But of course, if you look at a couple of other micro investing platforms, the most popular instrument happens to be digital gold, and yeah, so that's the most popular instrument that's going around right.
And what kind of customer base do we have in India at the moment for the micro investing landscape and across the landscape? How much money is under management for micro investing platforms?
So I think all of the companies that are operating in this space, are not more than 18 months old. So it's very early for us to determine, how much AUM, how much money is under management across these funds. But we're looking at, promising trends. Like I said, what we look at is about 1,800 rupees per user per month. That's the average investment, at least on our platform. We're looking at over 100% week on week growth currently in terms of user acquisition. We're looking at least 80% of our users referring this, one successful referral and bringing another friend on. So these are all very, very, interesting and encouraging trends that we're looking at. But I think, give it another year for us to look at, what's the kind of money that sits under management, and how the space actually evolves and develops further.
But what about the customer base? Is it, how do you classify that? Is it mainly young people or across
Yeah.
the
So
demographic?
again, from our customer base, I'll tell you, our the most common customer profile is 21 to 24-year-olds males in tier 1 and metro cities. Those are our early adopters today.
And speaking of the entire micro investing landscape, what kind of growth do you expect over the next decade? And what do you think will be the major drivers of it?
Primarily, right? If you look at India's youngest country in the world today, just between 18 to 28, we have 36.7 crore kids. Now, this is a population that is extremely tech savvy. They are transacting digitally, right? These are revolutions that have already taken place. All right. Since demonetization happened, the entire universe, Indian transaction universe, has shifted to UPI. Right. On the other thing, these kids are exposed to social media at a much younger age than when you and I were introduced to social media. Right. They come up there. The awareness levels at 20 are significantly higher from what you and I had back then. So these are revolutions that have already taken place in India. We're just piggybacking on these revolutions. We're not creating a new revolution. There is a high level of intent to invest. There is a high level of intent to explore financial products. Today, the issue is with access. And I think micro investing provides that access. So I think, I mean, yes, one part of being in the business, but very bullish, at least for this sector over the next decade. I think bullish for fintech as an entire industry over the next decade.
Sure, but let's also talk about the risks. Because any financial instrument has a risk, just as it has a benefit. So, what would be the risks associated with micro investing?
So because the investments happen in mutual funds, right? Those are the same risks that apply here as well. So, whether you invest 1,800 rupees through micro investing, or you invest 2,000 rupees through an SIP on any other platform, or you just put in 2,000 rupees in a lump sum manner, the number of shares that you buy, the number of units that you buy of the fund still remain the same, right? Approximately the same. And the fund performance again is subject to market risk. So the risks do not really change. What really just changes is the way of accumulating that amount. But other than that, the risks stay the same.
Satyajit, how are you creating awareness about micro investing among your audiences, especially in a situation where investing is not really taught in schools and colleges?
So, sex and money become very taboo topics in Indian households. Sex is something that we never discuss. Money is something that our parents take care of for us. They will pay for everything up until graduation, which is why the practical flow of money going in and out of our hands, is something that we start getting acquainted with only post 21, or post when we start earning our own money. This is something which causes a bit of a problem. But if you look at the entire creator economy that has done such phenomenal work over the past 7 to 8 years at least, they're spreading a lot of awareness. So what, as one of our marketing plans also, is to continue spreading awareness through creators, through people, the youth has their confidence, right? So we're looking at that. Plus, other than that, we're also looking at a lot of educative campaigns. We're looking at college drives. We're looking at talking to users. So these are a couple of ways in which we're trying to reach out to the youth.
And how do you take such a service, micro investing, beyond metros into the rural areas?
So I think that's a great question. So it is something that is one of our primary goals. There are two ways to this, right? One is the language barrier. I think once you start going beyond tier one into tier two, tier three, tier four cities, I think there's a higher level of comfort with vernacular languages. So one is you start introducing the app in more and more vernacular languages. That's primarily. The second thing, and which we've already solved for, if you buy a cup of coffee that costs you about 98 rupees, and the 2 rupees that gets invested, right? Now, any transaction that you do, the 2 rupees is not a significant amount for the kid from Kolhapur or for the kid from Bombay, right? But the 2,000 rupees that it accumulates in a month, and then 24,000 rupees annually, again averages, becomes significant for the kid from Kolhapur and for the kid from Bombay, right? So the biggest thing that I think micro investing does, and why it will have a higher level of adoption, is the entry point is extremely small. I do not even have to do a 500 rupee SIP, right? With a fixed obligation. Tomorrow, if I'm not spending, also think of it in this way, right? If I'm a freelancer, or if my pay is not fixed, my pay does not come in on the 5th of every month. Can I really do an SIP that goes in on the 6th, right? Or on the 7th or at the 8th? If last month I earned about 30,000 rupees, and if this month I earned about say only 15,000 rupees, naturally I will spend lesser in this month. Because I'm spending lesser, the number of transactions are lesser. The number of transactions are lesser, the investment is lesser. There is no platform which adjusts your investment to your income. This is something which very cleverly adapts to how much you're earning. It works phenomenally well for freelancers. It works phenomenally well for someone who does not want to commit a fixed amount, right? Who just wants to dip his or her toes into the water.
Yeah. So tell us your favorite story about someone who got into micro investing and managed to achieve a life goal through it, or is on their way to achieving a life goal through it.
I think we're a platform that just launched about 6 months back. So we don't have a story where someone has really achieved a life goal through it. But I think you know I personally do about 7 to 8 customer calls every day. Just to understand how people are actually perceiving the product. How can we make this better? And one of the most fulfilling things about starting Decimal is the number of people, and I've honestly lost track of it, but the number of people who tell me that, you know, I have 10,000 rupees in investment, I have 20,000 rupees in investment, and if it wasn't for this product, I probably don't know, if I would have had this. There are people who've told me that, you know, I felt for the first time in my life, I felt like an adult. I felt like a responsible adult. There was one heartwarming story. It was definitely not a life goal, but someone who had saved, I think, about six and a half thousand rupees, and bought a gift for his mother, and said, "This is the first gift I ever bought for my mother." And he told me about how she died. He'd actually send that message out on our support group, and I happened to give him a call and just speak with him, which was yeah. So I probably no story about someone having achieved a life goal through it, but I think we've been able to create a fair share of happy moments.
Yeah, I'm sure, but that sounds like a particularly sweet and emotional story. But
Sure.
Satyajit, tell us how you thought of Decibel and also about his journey.
I actually used to run an agri-tech startup, which I exited in December 2019. Shortly after that, my education, but was primarily in finance. I've done my CA/CFA. Shortly after that, I was approached by a leading fintech company to come and head strategy for them. And it was during this time. I mean, fintech. I come from a very traditional finance background, so fintech as an industry was still fairly new to me. And that's when I just started doing some research about what has been India's journey, what are the best case practices across the world. It was then that I came across some striking facts, primarily that we're the youngest country in the world. Our investment penetration is so low. And what I felt was there was a gap between intent and action, right? And that's the gap that I wanted to solve. So while I was looking, again, it's not a novel idea. It's not something that's not been done. It's come into India as recently as 2020, but this as a concept has worked phenomenally well in Western countries all across the world. It does really well. So yes, I just felt it was an idea that whose time had come. We were transacting digitally. We were there's a smartphone in almost every Indian hand, and all of the even the digital transaction penetration have reached tier 2, tier 3 post lockdown. So I think I just thought that it was a great time to start something like this, and it would benefit a lot of people.
So here's a question I ask all my guests at the end of the show. Why do you do this work?
I think two things. One was it's something that I come from a rural background. It's something that I have seen very very close to me. You know, I have seen people not have enough money again in rural areas. Primarily comes down to not having enough money to get their daughter married, not having enough money to provide you know space for their children to get educated. So investments, having to save money, just knowledge about how to manage money. Right? It's not about how do you invest to make 15% returns or 20% returns. It's just about how do you save money enough to beat inflation, right? That you can maintain a certain lifestyle. It's something that is very close to me. So that was one of the major things. Second thing was it was a very very big challenge to create something like this. You could not invest less than 500 rupees in mutual funds. You investments in India were very very expensive. Transactions in India were very very expensive. So where you're just facilitating a transaction of 1 rupee which goes into the mutual fund, but having to pay about 5-6 rupees to facilitate that transaction, it was something that would never make sense. So it was a big challenge, and I think yeah, I like creating products which are challenging enough and which have such a large impact, the potential of creating such a massive impact. So, and again, like I said, it was a product. It was an issue that was very very close to my heart.
Satyajit, thanks so much for coming on the show and explaining what micro investing is all about.
Thank you so much. I hope anyone who's listening to this, can try out Decibel, and please drop us a feedback on what you think of us.
Thank you all for listening. Please visit allindiansmatter.in, that's ALLINDIANSMATTER.in for more columns and audio podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at Ashraf Engineer, that's ASHRAFENGINER, and All Indians Count, that's ALLINDIANSCOUNT. Search for the All Indians Matter page on Facebook. On Instagram, the handle is All Indians Matter. Email me at editor@allindiansmatter.in. Catch you again soon.